I'm your host, Sheldon Alexander, and we're coming off a Monday pod in which we went 3-4 against the spread, but we're still kicking at 22-15 overall in the play-in/playoffs. Combine that with a 34-19-1 record overall for the NBA picks. Things are still rolling. One more game to go through here. It's the Suns and Pels. The Suns are up 3-2 in this series after they won game 5, 112-97. I was on the Pels. The Pels did not cover for me. We had the Suns. I think I said I had the Suns winning the game, but the Pels to cover at, I think it was plus 6.5. It was kind of spicy at the end, but not spicy enough for to kind of thread the needle on that one, as you like to say. Game 6 tonight, Suns -2. It's a short number, but I like to think the Pels win at home. I really would like to think that. I would like to think that the Pels force a game 7. But I'm not going to lie. I am making this -2 Suns pick just on the institution that is Chris Paul and Monty Williams and the organization that is the Phoenix Suns that are going to like sense the urgency of not playing around with the game 7. Like, I know it's tough. Yeah. And I know the Phoenix Suns won. Like, I know every single reason why the Suns just won that game at home, because Mikal Bridges and the other role players played really great at home. I get all of that. I'm acknowledging that I'm going counter to that. And I'm just making said bet based on the institution of Chris Paul.
Man, I was low key like fist pumping there because I really wanted your take on this, and I really wanted your take to bet the Pelicans. And so I look at this and
like I'm not saying that you shouldn't bet the Pelicans. That's not what I'm saying at all.
No, I know, and I know. I just thought you'd be sort of all in, as far, not all in necessarily, but like fired up about the Pelicans here. So first and foremost, right, like we just talked about the craziness and my obsession with the lines and the shifting and the valuations and all of that stuff, because that's the stuff that I'm really interested in. We talked about that with the Mavs and the Jazz, and you compare that to the sheer consistency of the point spreads of how it's supposed to work, right? It's supposed to be, all right, this team is this number when they play at home. This team is this number when they play at home, right? And you look at Phoenix, now it was -10 in the first game when they had Booker in those first couple of games. And then, of course, without Booker, it's 6.5, right? So quick logic, 3.5 points for Devin Booker, which, by the way, right, we start comparing to those previous two games, or two teams, I should say, where Luka 5.5. Okay, well, if Luka means 5.5, Booker means 3.5. That makes a ton of sense to me, because the Suns are at least, I shouldn't say at least capable, as I'm saying that, the Mavericks aren't capable, because they obviously won without Luka a couple of times. But like the Suns have more, to handle teams with when Booker's not around. So 3.5 makes a ton of sense. I have no problem with that adjustment. Now you look at the road point spreads here, and it's what? -2.5, -2.5, -2. Consistent right across the board, right? Suns got one of them. Pels got one of them. So there's not really any reason to make a massive adjustment other than to shade it a little bit towards the Pelicans, just based on the idea that they have been, outside of the first half of the first game, very competitive in this series, right? Throw that out and, listen, we might have a closeout game for the Pelicans tonight, something along those lines, right? The Pelicans had that schedule loss that a lot of people talked about in game 1. And so I go, okay, I can understand why you'd want to take a half point off of the 2.5 here. And honestly, I don't think it's enough, because I think the Pelicans do win this game. I'm looking at this going, I'm trying to figure out whether I should be betting the Pels to win the series, whether I should roll over a money line parlay on this. Like, the series price right now is plus 550 on the Pelicans, but obviously you get to a point where if a team needs to win consecutive games, whether it's 4, 3, 2, or whatever, that you can roll over the money lines. And so this game plus 110 on the Pels, and maybe 210 in the next game if it's 5.5, 6.5, something along those lines. That equals about plus 550. So it doesn't really matter. Now, the key element here is, as we see this morning, Devin Booker on the mend, right? I don't think he's going to play in this game 6. That would be really, I think that 3-2, series lead allows them to save him for a game 7. So that's the reason I think I would use a money line rollover, because again, if Booker plays in game 7, the line's going to creep back closer to 10. Is it going to go all the way to 10? I don't think so. We're talking about a game 7. We were talking about a guy who's not exactly clean bill of health, assuming he comes back, but you're going to probably throw a couple of points their way, right? It's probably going to be closer to 8, 8.5, which means your money line is going to increase, which means your money line rollover parlay is going to increase, above the plus 550 that's available right now. And by the way, if you bet the money line on the Pels and Booker comes back and you go, you know what, I just don't even really want the Pelicans anymore to win this series, then you just don't do anything, right? You just sit back and you watch and you don't have to do anything. So as much as I looked at plus 550 and was like, I could grab that right now, to me, the upside of that doesn't necessarily exist. There's only downside if Booker returns. So I'll be on the Pelicans on the money line here in this game, and I'll sort of play it by ear come game 7, if there is one.
Totally makes sense. And the Booker factor obviously plays a huge role in what could happen here. But I just find it very interesting. It's one of those things where, again, I know what the logic tells me, and I know when I'm going counter to that. So that's kind of when, I like to be upfront and let the peoples know, hey, this is where this pick is going, right? And to why the pick is going that way. So to recap the picks, there's a bunch of games on Thursday night. Raptors plus 1.5 in game 6 versus Philly. Give me the Suns -2 in game 6 in New Orleans. The Mavs +1 in game 6 in Utah. Moving on to Friday, got the Grizz at -1 in game 6 in Minnesota. And Sunday's game 1, Boston -5 in game 1 against the Milwaukee Bucks. Again, 3-4 from last week's pod, 22-15 play-in/playoffs. And then 34, 19-1 overall against the spread. Just giving those things out for the peoples who care. There's people who don't care, so don't listen. It's all good. We're here for everybody here.